So you were a firefighter for 4 years?
Yep, I was a firefighter for 4 years. City of Cookeville did this program, I guess, basically a scholarship where you worked as a full-time firefighter and they paid your tuition. And so I did that after I came home I went to play college baseball, got up there, didn't like college baseball, had a reason to come back home. So I came back home and my dad was like, oh, it's too late to transfer. You're going to work in a factory assembling airbags for 6 months. And that was miserable. So I decided to go to school, and the city of Cookeville was doing that student firefighter program. And I had a couple uncles. I had an uncle that was a Detroit firefighter for 20 years.
There's a job.
Right? Have you watched that documentary?
No.
Burn, about the city of Detroit. This was back in early 2000s, I guess, where there was this big, they light these houses on fire in town, and guys were getting hurt where there was no real loss of value and real loss of life. There's no lives in there, but guys were getting hurt, and they basically had stand down orders. It's crazy because their equipment was trash and run down, and so it's called Burn.
Burn.
What'd you get your degree in?
Hold on, let me introduce our guest. This is Rich Froning from Cookeville, Tennessee.
Second appearance, right? First time caller, second time. No.
Yeah, you were on the Bear Grease Render when we were in Tennessee at the MeatEater tailgate tour, which that film came out.
Yep.
Which is a unique MeatEater film. And your cameraman here, Scott,
and friend,
Vander Sloot.
Like he gets attached as
he's a friend too.
Friend too. Yep. I guess you can say
as long as I don't screw up the hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was thinking.
It's a very it's dependent on his actions.
On again, off again.
Yeah. On again, off again.
I would like to poll the Bear Grease audience of how many people know who Rich Froning is. Just raise your hand, and if you're in your car, if you knew who Rich Froning was.
I see that hand.
Apparently, Rich is a big deal. I'm told.
Used to be. Retired,
I'm told.
Formally.
He's a retired. No,
Scott, tell everybody knows who Rich is. But if you were describing who you worked for, who is Rich? Give like the elevator
super high
pitch.
level,
the G version.
4-time fittest man on earth, 6-time fittest team on earth, multiple business owner, father, Christian, husband.
You reading my Instagram bio?
I think I hit everything.
I think it says servant of Christ, husband to @Hillary Froning, and father of 3.
Yep.
Yeah, something like that. Yep.
That's pretty good.
That's about all I got.
That's good, man. Well, so we're in Oklahoma right now. You might have noticed that we're not at the Bear Grease World headquarters. We're in Oklahoma. It's
ain't no love in Oklahoma.
It's early January, and we're deer hunting.
We are deer hunting.
Yeah,
that's what we would call it, I guess.
Over your shoulder
you are.
there.
You are.
I'd say we're deer hunting.
Yeah.
And we've had a good hunt so far. A lot of action. It's yet to be determined on the full outcome of everybody, but Bear's been hunting. Rich has been hunting. I've been hunting. I killed this buck yesterday. Is it right there?
Other side.
No.
Oh, no, you're right. No. You're right.
Yep, you're good.
Over there. Yeah.
This way to the weight room.
Yeah, we're bow hunting. The Oklahoma season lasts till January 15th, and man, I like Oklahoma.
That's cool. I've really enjoyed Oklahoma.
Yeah,
it's been fun.
Oklahoma raised their non-resident tags like exponentially this year.
I noticed.
Like doubled.
As they should, right?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Keep the foreigners out.
Keep us out. Keep the trash out.
Yeah,
I saw you can do a lifetime non-resident license though. So I have a non-resident Tennessee license, and I don't know if that's just because you have to buy like a qualifying license, and then you buy your deer tags or deer license separate. But I noticed on there that there was an Oklahoma non-resident lifetime license.
Well,
I don't know what that is.
I don't think you can buy those anymore.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw it on there when I was going through it, but
well, as I understand it, they used to sell those.
Okay.
But they don't sell them anymore.
Okay.
But I don't know what you would have seen though.
I don't know. I saw it when I was
because in the regulation, like there's some group of people that have a non-resident lifetime license.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, we could have bought that. We lived close to Oklahoma, and I remember my dad telling me, like when I was like 10, he was like, they thought about getting us a non-resident Oklahoma license.
Yeah.
Just because we could.
You could. You might as well.
And,
I've got one in Tennessee, and all my kids have them, and theirs was exponentially cheaper.
Right.
Doing it when they were, sub 5 years old versus me at whatever I was, 30 years old. 25, 26.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're bow hunting, and then Bear's doing a little trapping.
Yep.
How many traps you got out right now?
I think I've got 6 out right now. Yodi
6
traps. We've got like a gang set in a cluster of persimmon trees. We put like a camera up expecting to see deer and hogs.
Right.
But we ended up getting a group of Yodis coming in there more than anything. So we set up 4 or 5 in there.
That was
just a couple on the roads.
I just had to ditch my contact.
Yeah, the smoke's pretty harsh.
Well, I think it just like went bad, just like that. You know how they do.
Yeah.
Dry up.
So we found this patch of persimmons, probably like 25 trees, and like a
real little
10
trees.
square yard area, like trees like this big. And a month ago, it was loaded with. I mean, just loaded with persimmons, thousands. 100,000, I don't know.
Big
the
ones,
limbs
too.
were just like leaning off these trees and big persimmons. I thought, and there was hog tracks and deer tracks under all this. And so we put up a camera and left it there. And to our surprise, more than deer and more than hogs, the coyotes were coming in there eating persimmons. Like
which actually
grazing
explains a lot. Because, sometimes you're walking in the woods and you see like a pile of scat. That's like too big to be a coon, but too small to be a bear, but it's got persimmons in it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yodis.
Yeah.
Who'd have thought?
Who'd have thunk it?
But I mean, so we're setting some traps in there, and last night I was able to check my phone because we put a camera up, watching the persimmon thicket with our traps out, and I know for sure 2 coyotes came in there and spooked, but we were beating around so much, left a lot of scent. Like tonight will be better because we're not. He's going to check it, but he's not going to go in there and set traps,
Yeah.
But so a lot of hogs over here too. Ton of hogs.
Mystery
hogs everywhere.
hogs.
Mystery hog. Yeah. What's interesting, if you were just to walk around this place, I mean, there's hog tracks everywhere. Is that right, Rich?
Everywhere. Every time we're walking around.
I mean, if you just get out of your truck at a random
and
spot,
you can just tell where they're nosing through and just ruining the ground.
a lot of rooting.
A lot of rooting.
You would think that hunting over here for 3 days that you'd see hogs every time you sat.
Nope.
But we have had cameras up for 2 months over here, and I've got daylight pictures of hogs probably less than 5 times. But
That's crazy.
But they're in front of my cameras every day. Like, I don't know where they go. When Europeans first came to North America, they thought that the bears. Some people thought that bears migrated because they were just gone.
Yeah.
Like in the wintertime, like there are bears all over the place. And then, about November, they were just gone. And they thought they were like mallard ducks. Like, well, they must have went somewhere. I'm pretty sure that these hogs migrate out of here during the day.
Like a daily migration.
Yeah, like over that mountain. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the guys over on that side are like, dude, we got hogs during the daylight, but we can't get a nighttime hog picture.
Isn't there a gap out here
There's
somewhere?
There's a gap right here. Probably a major hog migration corridor.
Migration gap right there. That's what we'll call that. Hog's Gap. There it is.
Hog's Gap.
There it is.
That's it. No, this is a fun place to hunt.
Oh, it's awesome. It's been really cool. And even, we're out, what'd you say, about 3 miles ish?
Yeah.
And even that's just cool to drive through. And
Yeah.
it's been, mine and Scott's commute every morning and afternoon is, we saw deer when we were driving back in last night, crossing in front of us. So.
Yeah.
And then 4 free range wild steers.
Yeah.
One with a bum leg.
Yeah. So this is a working cattle ranch, and so they've got some stragglers out here.
We're cursed with cattle when we're hunting.
It's true.
We when we would go out west the first couple times to Colorado, we'd be out in the middle of the national forest, and here comes something walking through the woods, and all of a sudden just a beef cow, because farmers can lease the property. But I'm like, we're 10,000 feet. It's like not a cliff, but it's steep. Sure enough, just a moo cow out there.
You're not in a good place for a beef cow to be.
No. So yeah.
I hunt in some spots where you can't lease, there's no free range cattle, but you'll still see cows. Like every now and then there'll be just like a herd of cows out on the road or something that got loose.
Maybe they're like wild horses.
Yeah. No
I'd
cow season.
I'd shoot
though.
one though.
National forest.
I'd shoot
cow.
one.
National Forest cow. Rich, tell me about. So you got into hunting. I mean, you grew up doing some hunting, but you kind of like got into hunting big like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. So I grew up in a hunting family. From Michigan originally, moved to Tennessee when I was 4, so Tennessee's home. But we actually have more Michiganders on this podcast. Technically.
So right before the podcast, we brought up a very interesting point. So Rich moved from Michigan when he was 4 years old.
4 years old.
And I told him, I said, Rich, if you move to the South before you're 5, like you're not technically a Yankee.
You get a pass.
Yeah.
You kind of acclimate. But if you move to the South when you're like 9 or 10.
Scott's.
Yeah, I mean, like this guy.
He'll never get it out of his system. It's gone. You know, there's not much left.
I moved to the South when I was 4 too.
Okay. Yep.
So we're good.
What year? How old are you?
I'm getting ready. I'll be 49. I was born in 76. How old are you?
37.
37.
Yep.
Just kids.
Babies.
So
not really.
So you're good.
I'm good. All right.
But we've got 3 Michiganders here.
For me, Tennessee is home, right? So like that's home for me. All my family, like I've got some extended family, cousins and aunts and uncles that live in Michigan, but Tennessee's home. But both places are, they're whitetail country, really. There's our house is when rifle season opens, there's orange in the woods everywhere. So I had uncles that hunted, and so I was around it and did some of it, but I was super impatient, and I didn't like getting up early, so I didn't hunt a ton and, sports and all that. And so I would say around 2014 or 15, I had a good friend of mine, his dad was like, man, whitetail hunting sucks, come hunt turkeys. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot, and fell in love. And, because I was always outside. Like, my parents, if we were inside and we couldn't find something to do outside, they were going to find us something to do outside. So, hey, go get lost in the woods. So we were out in the woods with BB guns and, doing dumb stuff that boys do in the woods. But I wasn't ever really hunting. But I grew up in the woods. And so, to me, it really just feels like doing that again, being a kid again. And so started with turkeys. And then through that, had a friend that was like, hey, if you like turkey hunting, you should try elk hunting. So I went on an elk hunt in 2018, I think was my first one.
Okay.
And didn't see an elk on a guided rifle hunt, but fell in love.
Didn't see a single elk.
Did not see one single elk. Heard a bugle as soon as we stepped out of the truck on the first morning, and then never saw one again. And but fell in love. I mean, my guide was awesome. He taught me a ton, and we went after him. Man, you could just tell by the end of the week he was a little bit distraught. He was like, "Man, this is the hardest I've ever hunted with somebody," because I was willing to go any and everywhere. We actually put my other friend Matt in. Basically, he got to the point where he thought he needed to go to the hospital. That we'd walk that much. Like, seriously, he didn't hunt the next morning one day because he thought he had rhabdo, and which is like where your muscle tissue breaks down, and like he was messed.
Rhabdo?
It's called rhabdomyolysis. Yeah. So basically, it happens a lot in like car accident victims, but also if you work out with too much intensity, and some people are genetically predisposed to it, but your muscle tissue will actually break down and go into your bloodstream and go to your kidneys. And so it's a big thing early on in CrossFit. People had, they saw that happening. But it's kind of like people have kind of figured that out, that, hey, maybe we shouldn't push people so hard right off the couch,
Wow. So y'all hunted that hard that
we hunted that
was
hard,
thinking that
that
was going to happen to them.
Thought he was dead. So, and then, for the next 3 years, we did over-the-counter public land elk hunting, man, and it was we hit the ground hard, and then we finally killed one.
You be into fitness like you were when you hit the mountains? Were you? I mean, I know you were like fully capable, but did you? I mean, was it hard?
I think it's as hard as you want to make it, right? When we go, like, that's just the style too that we were doing it, and we were so new to it. I didn't know we're like, oh, we just got to cover ground to find them, right? So and you're on public land, and we were huffing it, man. And I'm beyond prepared, I feel like. And so, yeah. I mean, I don't think there was any I don't think we ever had really any learning curve other than like, you
Yeah,
know,
were you with him when he was first elk hunting, Scott?
Yeah, so
So
I didn't
you were
go
in-
on the
you were in
first
good
hunt,
shape
but
too
all the
then.
public land stuff I did.
oh, Scott's.
Well, for context too about you being prepared, he was still competing in CrossFit, so the season would end in August.
Yeah.
So he was at his fittest. He will be the
he was
entire
ready to
year in
go.
August, and then a couple weeks later we were on the mountain.
So he was ready to go.
Yeah.
But he can only be as fast and go as far as his cameraman can
That's
go.
true.
If you're filming.
That's true. And with Scott, I've never once questioned, oh, should we do this? Like me and him we talked about it. We've talked about it. We've both kind of, I guess, grown in hunting as a team almost, as weird as that sounds. And like, as much as, you know, I'm the one taking the shot, he's getting a shot with the camera. So it's like we bounce ideas off of each other, and we've both kind of, we've messed it up together, and we've succeeded together. So it's kind of cool that we kind of joke with our wives, like we'll send a picture of us actually hunting, that we're not just like disappearing
like
off, you know, like
broing out.
Yeah, right, just hanging out. So, but yeah, it's been really cool because for me, you know, like when I think of hunting, you know, like when people do these like long individual like solo hunts, like no part of me does that sound like fun. Like I like hanging, even if it's, you know, even if we're just here at camp and we go one way, you go another way, and we all come back. There's just something about that camaraderie, that like team aspect to it. Me growing up playing team sports, man, I just really enjoy it. Right?
It really is a primal thing.
It really is. It just feels right.
That
right?
connection.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well, luckily you're bunched up with one good hunter.
Yeah, that's right.
Too soon.
Yeah. I mean, we can talk about it. Yeah, I last night me and Scott had one come in the way that we wouldn't think he would come in.
Now, I wasn't teeing you up to necessarily have to tell this story.
But it's a good learning. You know, like I'm early on my whitetail experience, and you know, I think we talked about it. You're like, hey, you know, the farther that shot gets, the less, you know, I feel super comfortable taking a far shot because we do a lot of those tacks and stuff like that.
You shoot a lot.
I shoot every day. Yeah, pretty much every day starting, well, now that I've shot pretty much every day for a year. But anyway, like I'm super comfortable in those situations. Deer comes behind us. Scott's like, oh, here comes some does. Oh, and a little buck. He's not a shooter.
Scott.
And so
I only saw his bases.
And so I'm faced this way.
Yeah,
we're in
he wasn't
saddles.
super heavy, was he?
We're in saddles, and I turn, and I'm like, that's definitely a shooter. So I just slowly grab my bow. So I've got my hand on my bow, and I get it off the little hook I've got, and I just turn. And so he's kind of still coming, and he stops. And our wind is kind of going not to him, but in front of him. And so I'm like, I've got to make a decision pretty quick. But he starts doing the stomp and just looking. He does not like the situation. And I'm trying to turn, and as I'm turning, my heart's like pounding out of my chest, right? And so as I'm turning, I'm putting so much pressure somehow on an artery somewhere that I'm starting to get lightheaded because I'm in the saddle, right?
Your neck is about to twist off.
Seriously. And so like I'm like everything's closing in. So I'm like, all right, I can't do that. So I'm waiting here. So then he turns, and I'd ranged a bunch of trees, and luckily having, you know, we've shot a bunch, not cold, but like guessing at distances just to see. And he was right at 38 yards, 37 yards.
Yeah.
And I drew, and because he turned perfect broadside and was about to leave, and I let one go at 40, and we're using my 40 pin, and man, it looked great. And then that last second, they whitetail do what they do, and when he went to turn to go, he just dipped just enough. And we found blood immediately. We found good blood, and then gone. And so we went back and watched the video, and it looks like there's a perfect like evergreen branch right where it would have hit, but we think it got either brisket or not brisket, backstrap or something. So
yeah. It looked, man, when you showed me your arrow when you got back,
it's got meat on it. It passed through, but it's just so weird. Or maybe it glanced. I don't know, but
yeah. I mean, I feel pretty confident that deer is totally fine.
He's just laughing at us like merely a flesh wound.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
It was a good deer.
That's the hard part. I hear a lot of guys. I mean, you know, there's a lot of emphasis on long range shooting and all this, and that's good. It's good, and there's a place for it. But man, a deer, I don't care how good you are, a deer past 30 yards, a whitetail deer, it's just long. There's just a
lot
lot
can happen.
Yeah.
And
I saw that.
you guys get good at watching a deer and kind of calculating what he's going to do and how he's going to drop. But I mean, you really want to shoot whitetails inside of 30 yards
For sure. Yeah, I've learned that.
I mean, and I know everybody's like, well, what about such and such? He's a great shot. He is, and then there's also a lot of guys that document a lot of long shots, and I know I there's probably a lot of stuff they don't show too.
Yeah,
of deer getting away, and not to their discredit.
No.
I haven't shown every deer that I've probably not made a great shot on. I mean, it happens sometimes, but my point is,
I try to
tough.
that if I'm going to miss, I just completely
whip.
Well, that's a blessing, really.
Yeah.
And it's also a blessing that, like, you guys had this on video, and so we were able to watch it, and pretty conclusively, we're like, yeah, that deer was shot through the back straps.
And we looked for 2 hour and a half last night, and then 2 hours this morning.
Yeah.
And so
we went far. In every direction. He is not there.
Yeah. Well, and like if you'd have hit the deer back, that would be one direction that you could hit a deer and it would be a bad shot. That's a mortally wounded animal if it's passing through and it's hit anywhere in the paunch or anywhere in the diaphragm, obviously. And I mean, that's an animal that we're still looking for right now, or we would be if you had done that.
Yeah.
But man, when you get any kind of peripheral shot, if it's low brisket or high up in the back straps, I mean.
So you found your arrow.
Found my arrow. It's covered in meat, not necessarily blood. But then we see blood immediately, tracked it for probably 50 yards, and then you start seeing big puddles.
Yeah.
We're like, sweet. Well, then drip again, and then big puddles, and then drip again. Then he walked through some like kind of oak growth and just blood everywhere, and then drip, gone. And we went.
How far out was the blood where you shot?
150-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, about 150 yards tops. So. Yeah, man, it was, bad night sleeping, and then we're sitting there this morning. I'm like, all right, let's go look, and then you're still a little bit of optimism there, like, oh yeah, sure enough, it looked good blood, but just was not there. We tried, man, but
yeah, well, we still got
tonight and tomorrow morning.
Yeah, at least 2 more hunts. So
Yep.
a lot could happen between now and then. Rich, what's it like? Like, there's some people that probably don't really even know what CrossFit is. I would have known that it was like a way to work out, but you described
You've heard
it to
somebody
me.
talking about CrossFit. That's kind of the joke, is like,
Yeah.
somebody does CrossFit because they're going to tell you about CrossFit, right?
Yeah.
And,
I mean, you kind of gave me you said like it's
So if-
taking the
if
best of
you're-
all working out.
Basically, a guy named Greg Glassman started a thing where he took running, biking, rowing, swimming, powerlifting, which would be, the deadlift, bench, squat, and Olympic lifting with some of the accessory lifts there, plus body weight movements, and kind of just mixed them all into one thing. And then defined, I guess, what you would say fitness, because, like if you were to say what makes somebody fit, is it cardiorespiratory endurance? Is it the person that can lift the most? Is it the person that can bike the farthest? Or is it the person that can do all of those things? Maybe not necessarily the best in each specialty. It's more, he always said, a jack of all trades and a master of none. And so basically you take all those things and then high intensity, functional movements, and we constantly vary it so you're ready for anything.
That's why it would be said that you were the fittest man in the world.
That by CrossFit's definition, and I'm sure that they copy. I think them or Reebok copyrighted that.
What's that?
The fittest on earth
Really?
tagline. If the person that wins the CrossFit games, by their definition, you would be the fittest on earth.
Do you think that's true?
I don't know. There's probably somebody out in that wouldn't
You've
even never even heard
never
of CrossFit.
wrestled?
That's right. We've never wrestled. So like we've never been in a deadlift
Now,
competition. We've
Bear,
never done
if I were to like wrestle
grapple,
and beat him, would that make me the fittest man?
I think so.
let's do it right here.
Let's go. I promise you, in my family, I would be.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I like hey, he won the CrossFit Games 4 times and he won it 6 times. Like, I don't know, by the
And nobody's
definition.
ever done anything like that.
Not the done the individual and team. There's a woman right now that she's won 7 times.
Really?
And then a guy after me, Matt, that won 5 times. And so now it's kind of like ping pong, and other than the female side.
But Rich, you were like the original OG.
Yeah.
So like when CrossFit like really came onto the scene and they had the CrossFit Games, you were the first guy to like really win a bunch.
What I would say is when it kind of like started getting to that point, I was like holding on to like what the old guard was and bringing in the new. And so I'm like this bridge kind of gap, trying to hold the two together at times, because it's turned into when I started. And even when I was doing it, like I was working, most guys and girls were working other jobs, and now it's like turned into a professional sport. And towards the end, my last probably 2 years as an individual, I still owned the gym and coached, but I wasn't working, like I wasn't working at the fire department or working, for the intramural department at Tennessee.
So as it grew, it's become
more professionalized. People can make money.
So the people at the top are doing it like full time.
Correct. And
they're training full time.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a facility in Cookeville. We have the actual normal CrossFit Mayhem for the average Cookvillian. And then it's also, people, we do what's called drop-ins. So it's basically like Disneyland. People come and work out at CrossFit Mayhem. And so you didn't actually get to see it
No.
when you were in town. We actually just went to the house, and I've got that barn that I trained in a bunch too. But then we also have the athlete facility. And so we've got a Brazilian, we've got a Russian, we've got Australians that visit regularly. We've got all kind of from everywhere.
Cookeville, Tennessee, your gym, the Mayhem, what's it called?
CrossFit Mayhem, yeah.
CrossFit Mayhem is like the mecca of the world for CrossFit. Is that right, Scott? You were telling me.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, in terms of people that want to go, anyone around the world could pick one gym they want to go visit. Typically,
so people move to Cookeville, Tennessee.
People will move actually
that want to be pro CrossFit.
And
there's
people
regular
that just
people
want regular people.
They're like, hey, I have a remote job and I really I want to be a part of this community. They'll move to Cookeville.
That's incredible, man.
Stevie Goldie, they moved their entire business from California. Granted, it was peak COVID. They wanted to move somewhere, Tennessee or Texas. Decided Cookeville partly because of Mayhem. Moved their entire pizza business, and they live in Cookeville now.
So what's it like you walking in there, Rich?
Nothing. Nobody cares. I mean, I'm just rich,
Scott, is he telling the truth?
Yeah.
Unless
if
there's
a
drop-ins. If there's
drop-ins,
then that's different. Like, yeah, I'm going to take a bunch of pictures. But if it's normal every day, so, there's not many days where there's not drop-ins. Like, I might take a picture or two with the people that are traveling from out of town. But everybody else, I'm just Janice's son or Rich's son, honestly. Like, that's just, my mom worked in the restaurant kind of business for 30 years. And of course, she's super
So you grew
proud.
up in Cookeville?
I grew up in Cookeville. Cookeville's home.
Yeah.
34 years now.
So you're like the hometown, you're the pride of Cookeville.
There's
If
signs.
you drive in,
there's
it
signs.
says home of Rich Froning.
Does it really?
Junior.
Oh, that's
home of Rich Froning
legendary,
Jr.
man.
Yeah, we got to emphasize that. Dad tries to take too much credit. He calls himself the original Rich Froning.
So your dad's name is Rich?
Yeah, my dad's name's Rich, and my son's name's Rich, too.
Oh,
so, yeah.
nice.
Trice is what we call him, but yeah.
The gym is on Rich Froning Way.
Yeah, that was not my
So
doing.
that must be named after your dad.
Golly.
I know, right?
Rich is like, they're actually in a meeting right now. They're probably turning it to Froningville.
Yeah.
Where's the sculpture?
No, there isn't one. There isn't one.
It's like in the center of the town square.
Rocky, like a Rocky.
Yeah.
Most sculptures, they would be really favorable to the guy. Like if he had his shirt off.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'd be like, there's no way that guy looked like that. But with Rich, if they made his statue, they'd be like, he pretty much looks like
That's
that.
what it was. Yeah, no, man. In Cookeville.
Hey, let me tell you why this is relevant to all you out there. Is that I met you 2 or 3 months ago.
Yep.
And man, I hate it when people say, "Man, I didn't even know who you were before I met you." People say, I mean, I've heard people say that to Steve Ranella or something, and it's like, what planet are you on?
Where are you from?
But this is going to be endearing to our cause here by me saying that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
I just not in the CrossFit world.
No.
I mean, you might think I was.
I see it.
But
you are now.
And Rich, I would have never even picked you out other than your buff.
Right.
I would have like your demeanor is just incredibly humble.
I've got really good parents and a good wife.
You didn't care that I didn't really know anything about your story. And
All
some people would have.
Well, here's the deal: is all I do is work out. Like anybody that's like, says stuff like that. I'm like, man, I just found something that people enjoyed watching, and I got to make a living out of it. Like it's. I'm not any better. I've met people that are better than me in other things, and so I'm just like, hey. It's, and part of that probably goes back to the faith aspect. And like I said, both of my parents are, that's just what you do, right? You just do what you're supposed to do. My whole family's like that. And then, my wife does not think that I'm that cool, Well, you especially when I don't take out the
especially
trash.
From the outside, not being in it, like you would feel like, the sports world, I mean, you don't have to be in the sports world to know that it's full of ego.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, anything's full of ego. Hunting worlds can be full of ego. Yeah. But, I mean, that's what stood out to me after I met you. I was like, man, this guy's not anything like what you might think. And that wasn't a surprise to anybody that I talked to. They were like, oh, yeah, Rich is an incredible guy.
Well, I hope that. But one of the cool things about CrossFit is...
But I'm like, he's not as tough as they think he is.
I wrestled him. One of the cool things about CrossFit and winning the games is you may win overall, but you lost a bunch of events in there. There's could be...
So somebody beat you, and they're telling their grandkids about it.
Hey, I beat him on one workout, right? Yeah. And I get it all the time. Like, first round, I beat you on that workout. And I'm like, yeah, the workout was 5 rounds, or whatever. Just local people even. But
that would totally be me.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
And so, it's I just work out for a living and got to do something really cool. And, I get to provide for my family for doing something that I love. And I've met a lot of really cool people. I kind of had this epiphany the other day where, I've got a good friend. He's, how old's Jay Webb? Like 50 or 45?
No, mid-40s.
Mid-40s. And he was like a school teacher and just started kind of showing up to my garage through a friend of a friend, and now he's competing in the Masters division, and he's getting pretty good. And it's just cool to see those like friendships and relationships you've made along the way, which I'm sure you've done the same with hunting. Like there's just cool. I've been in the last couple of years, I've been able to be this part of this really cool CrossFit community, and it gets a bad name at times because you have turds in every punch bowl. And then I've been a part of the mountain biking community because I've done the Leadville 100 mountain bike the last couple of years, and then now we're part of the hunting space. And there's really positive and uplifting people in all of them, and then there's some jerks in all of them. So it's just cool.
Yeah, man, that's really cool. To go back a little bit to the training stuff, and Scott said this earlier to me. He said that you said people were training like 15 years ago. They were doing like one CrossFit workout a day, like albeit a really intense workout, like training for games. And like these were the best guys in the world, and they would do like one big training session a day to train, and they were like hardcore. And then Rich came along, and he started doing 2 sessions a day, and it was almost like this exploration of like, wait a minute, can a human even do that?
So it started off, Rich and Darren did 2 workouts, and they didn't die from it.
Yeah.
So people really thought you might die?
I specifically remember a CrossFit documentary. I believe it was called Every Second Counts.
Every Second Counts.
And Tony Budding, one of the guys that kind of started the media side of the CrossFit Games, looks at the camera and was like, if people work out multiple times a day, they could die. And you're just like, wow. Because the idea was that the intensity piece of CrossFit is what draws people, or what people, I guess, the suffering part of it, right? Which sounds weird and kind of crazy, but so you hit this really hard workout, and me and Darren, my cousin, who I started CrossFit with, we both, while we were trying to run a gym, we also had a second job at another like kind of fitness, like a corporate fitness place, and so we're sitting there. We did a workout that morning, and we're watching some CrossFit YouTube video, and we're like, oh, that's a cool workout. Want to go try it and see if we die? We knew we weren't going to die, but you're like, could we get rhabdo from that? Because that was the big thing is like.
Is that like a buzzword in the?
It really is.
Well, that's going to be, that's a big part of this podcast, rhabdo.
Uncle Rab, there was a big like push back in, probably 8 to 10 years ago that like the anti-CrossFit people were like, oh, they're giving people rhabdo and they're going to die. They're hurting people and putting people in the hospital. And I mean, it happens, but it happens in a bunch of different areas
the
too.
rival other kind of worker.
Yeah, the power lifters.
Yeah,
The
the power lifters,
lifters.
the weight lifters, the bodybuilders, that type of stuff. But
The
you know,
Pilates,
yoga- the
the
yoga-
Pilates folks are really the ones you got to watch out
yogis, you know. And so, yeah, we did 2 workouts, and we were like, oh, okay, so we can. Why not? You know, try
You
to
woke
get.
up the next day and
And
you're
I was
like,
okay.
I'm still
I'm
alive.
sore, but I'm all right. You know, and so.
But from there, the envelope was pushed to the point of what it is now, where people have to work out 5, 6, 7 hours a day to
Like it's a full-time
yeah,
job.
to be a CrossFit Games athlete. And
I ruined it for everybody. Basically.
well, I think like the most famous phrase and like the way to sum it up, what you did was Jason when he said, "What's Rich doing?"
Yeah,
So
he wrote
another-
it on. One of the guys that I competed with is a good friend of mine. He wrote on his wall in his garage, "What's Rich doing?" So he would do more.
All the
Mhm.
competitors
Mhm.
knew like he'd go out and do rowing intervals at 10 o'clock at night in the garage because
Mhm.
he was sitting there stressed out that someone might beat him. So that was kind of how I think the sport evolved as quickly as it did, was him being like,
A
actually, I
psycho.
can just keep
A little bit
doing
of a
more
psycho.
workouts all day long. And
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
So Rich,
Wow,
what
that's pretty
what
cool, man.
years were you did you win?
So I started in 2009, like July of 2009. Went to my first CrossFit competition in would have been February or March of 2010. I ended up getting second in 2010. Won 2011, 12, 13, 14. On a team, we won 15, 16. We got second again on 17. Don't talk about that. And then 18, 19, COVID year, 21, 22. All team.
Okay.
And so that was on the team. You go. It's same time as the CrossFit Games as the individuals, and it started out as 3 men and 3 women on a team, and they would just. And so the whole idea behind CrossFit is you don't know what you're showing up for, so you don't
Okay.
know what you're
Oh,
training for.
Okay.
You might find out a week before. You might find out as you walk on the floor.
But
like
it's
there's
too
just-
late to do
It's
much.
too late to do much
by the time you do know.
And so, you know, they did the same thing with the teams where, you know, but they cut it back from 3 men and 3 women to 2 men and 2 women in 2018, I think.
I
or
think so.
19, whatever it was, 18. And so it's way better, I think, that way. But, you know, it was.
So are you still competing?
No, yes. I still work out way too much just because I enjoy working
Right.
out. I have this goal of I got to let all the athletes know that, hey, every once in a while, the old man still got it.
Right.
I need
You
to.
do get a bonus of old man strength when you
Yep,
start
yep.
packing the years
Still
on.
trying to find it because it's
I-
actually regressed since
I
where
love
I was.
it. I worked in the school where Clay's wife worked, and all the teenage boys they want to arm wrestle,
Oh yeah,
and you just slam them down, and I just push them away and say, "Come back when you're a man."
come back when you're a man. You're the gatekeeper to manhood.
That's right.
All right.
I was
all
not
right.
a part of any of that.
And so, you know, I want to be able to just be functional if I need to. I need, as lame as it sounds, I got to look good with my shirt off because that's what sells programming. I want to be able to like.
That's only been said on bear grease maybe a handful of times around here, folks.
Put it down, mark it down. I want to be able to do hard things and never question like, can I do it, right? And you know, like we'll do a 24-hour. We did a 24-hour row a couple of weeks ago. It's a charity. We do a 24-hour mountain bike. I did Leadville the last 2 years. That 100-mile mountain bike race. That's in all above 10,000 feet. So I have to have something to train for, some type of target.
Was it a relief when you stopped doing that high level competition, or did you miss it?
Parts of me misses it. Parts of me just. Honestly, I hated competing. The like dread of building up to it. Just the
Right.
like, you know how bad it's gonna hurt. There's the expectation, but then as soon as 3, 2, 1, go happens, everything else, like as
Right.
weird as it sounds, as you know, as cliche as it, like everything else slows down. And you know, like there's loud music, there's all this kind of stuff going on, but I couldn't tell you. I can maybe tell you 2 songs that have ever been played at the CrossFit Games.
What are those 2 songs?
I was about to ask the same thing.
Remember the name, and then
Can you sing it?
no, I'm not doing that. You don't want to hear that.
CrossFit doesn't involve
And then-
vocal.
There's what's is it Gangsters in Paris or something like that?
Oh,
The,
well,
like-
you can't say what it's called.
yeah, it's something else, but the edited version. But it's definitely not edited at a CrossFit competition. But those 2 songs, for some reason, I can remember the exact event. The one with the second song I said was it's called the Down and Back Chipper. We were in Carson, California. It's in the tennis stadium. It's at night. There's just it's like a Friday night light football feel to it. And then the last one was my last year as an individual. kind of the event that like kicked off kind of the comeback is called Midline March, and it was in the stadium. That was Remember the Name. I don't know why those two memories with those songs are the only songs that I ever remember being played. You know, we probably heard hundreds of songs or thousands even. And so I miss pieces and parts of it, but I don't miss the stress of it, if that makes sense.
I think the part that was tough for you at the end, from my perspective, is the expectation that you have to win.
Yeah.
It would be like coming out here, and if you didn't shoot a 180-inch deer, they're like, well, why'd you suck
Why'd
this
you even
time?
come out here?
It was relief.
Why waste your
when
time?
we would win, it was relief. There was no like celebration, you know. It was just like
because you were expected to win.
Because you're expected to win, and if something was to happen,
that's tough. I bet.
So 10 years or 12 years of that, you're just like, I'm good now.
So you
know?
felt like Simone Biles.
Yeah, basically, yeah. I mean, it's
now how does Simone feel? Some of us don't know about Simone.
She felt the pressure of having to be the best every time she stepped on the floor, even though she was gymnastics.
Oh, I'm not in the gymnastics world either, Josh.
Olympic gymnastics.
Yeah,
okay. She's like the GOAT.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it would be like that. But I was also 36 years old, and my body was, not that it was failing me, but trying to like push through stuff. You're like, I don't have to do that anymore, like. And so I'll still do. We do a local competition in Michigan, in Muskegon, Michigan. It's called Fresh Coast, and I'll do some charity like partner competitions. I'm not individual. I'm like, no part of me ever wants to work out by myself in front of people like a dancing bear ever again. I'll partner with somebody or do whatever. So, I still work out like I'm, getting ready for something, even though I'm not. But who knows? One day I might do something. It's just yeah. So
interesting.
I like maybe it could be like, I'm doing all this working out because I know Joe's moving next summer and I got to move his
You got to help him. Yeah, got to help.
I wanted Rich to help me drag my buck out.
I would have.
I just wanted to see what it would feel like for the fittest man in the world to have the other antler.
Just boom, gone.
Is that one of the events that they do?
I drag a sled. We do that a lot to prep for whatever we're doing, elk or pushing sleds.
It's a unique body movement and stressor to drag a buck.
It's a weird,
because you're like,
what's worse?
You're like
is
pulling,
actually dragging a doe because there's nothing to hang on to.
Your hand
holding on to the
up.
Yeah.
What's even worse? Dragging a bear.
Dragging a bear. That's right.
Yeah. That's why you don't drag bears.
I know, but if your knife skills aren't as good and that's kind of the first time you've ever killed something like that by yourself without a friend that knows what they're doing, you drag the bear out, So.
Or if you're in Eastern Tennessee.
Yeah. I was about to say something like kind of like, you don't drag bears, but then in East Tennessee, the man that I personally know that has killed more bears than any person I've ever known, they drag every bear out they killed.
We were in there and River killed a bear that was like a 300-pound bear.
I'm talking about Roy Clark in East Tennessee.
Yeah, and it was like a rough hike down there, like steep. I mean, like we were sliding all the way down, and then it was like a half mile in a creek bed to like a road, and they were like, "We're dragging it."
That sounds like Colorado, doesn't it?
That sounds like exactly what we did in Colorado.
Yeah, they have a big cultural thing there to get it out whole. Like they want to put it on their dog box and they want to be able to weigh it. Because I was with them, the first time I was with them and we killed a bear way back, I was like, it was like black dark and raining, and there were just a few of us that made it back to this tree and shot this bear. Well, we shot it in the daylight, but like by the time we were dragging it out, messing around, it was dark. And it wasn't that big of a bear. And I was like, boys, we'll quarter this thing up and each of us will carry a piece. This is no big deal. And they were like,
say what, boy?
Where are you from, boy?
Like, put your knife down, young boy. We're going to drag this thing out.
Let the adults do it.
We'll just pretend that's why we did it.
Yeah, that's why we did it. It was like, we're from East Tennessee. Well, Eastern Middle Tennessee. We're right at the edge, Cumberland Plateau.
I've got a serious question for you.
Okay.
That's that I think is really relevant. So, if somebody were to use the phrase identity, that would mean a lot of different things to different people. So, I'll just like categorize identity as humans on planet Earth are constantly trying to kind of figure out who they are based upon their context.
Yep.
And we typically, in some ways, like humans are complex things because we do have this like physical life, but we also have this like inner spiritual life that's very real in all humans, regardless of like what you think about religion or anything. I mean, like we're quite different than animals.
Yep.
And so my question is going to be, so you can be preparing for it,
okay,
is how do you excel? But I'm going to qualify it a little bit more, but I'm going to ask you the question so you be ready, Rich.
Okay.
This is like a CrossFit game where you get the workout like right when it starts.
Okay, here it is.
No, but you've been training for this one. The question is, how do you not take on the external identity of the things that you do, and how do you have a more healthy, real identity in like a spiritual sense, and more of a who am I as a man? Who am I called to be? Who am I like inside my family? Because people typically equate themselves, and inside of hunting, it's like that. Like people take a lot of identity inside of hunting. And the reason that's a problem, like you might be like, well, what's the problem with that? And people would look at me and be like, well,
you're a bear
Clay,
guy.
you identify as a hunter. I absolutely do. But I would say that the core of my identity, really who I am when I close my eyes, if it's based around this external thing that I do, it ultimately is going to fail, because there's going to come a day when I can't hunt.
Can't do it.
There's going to come a day when I'm not good at hunting and I don't kill a deer. Like what happens when like this thing like kind of lets me down? And that's when you got to have like this real identity of who you are. So with you, as accomplished as you are externally, I hear you talk a lot about how that did not become your identity.
Right.
How do you do that?
So I'm going to weave back and tell you kind of where this all started. So 2010, I, had just finished being a firefighter, ex-college baseball player, one of 32 first cousins on my mom's side, 25 are boys. Everything's a competition. Everything's a thump your chest, be a man, show what you can do, right? Go to the CrossFit games, and really with no expectation of even qualifying. I win one of the qualifiers, go to the next stage, thinking, all right, if I can at least, do a good job here and set myself up for maybe next year making the CrossFit games, end up actually winning that regionals, what they called it, went sectionals, then regionals. Then I went to the CrossFit games, and I'm in first place going into the final 3 events. They pull 18 of us, 6 men, 6 women, 18 men, 18 women, 3 heats of 6 and 6, and pull us out, put us in a room, take your cell phones away, take everything away, no communication. They pull you out 6 people at a time, alternating 6 men, 6 women. And I think, I don't even remember if it was that. I've tried to block this whole thing out of my head, but I don't even know how many points I'm in the lead at this point. It's not many. It's pretty close, but I'm like, all right, my whole goal here was not to get last, and maybe I'll win this thing. It's $25,000. I'll be able to, me and my wife are getting married. At that point I was engaged. I was going to get married next year, and I'm like, all right, hey, this is a good start, right? And so we're in this room and don't really know anybody. I'm new to kind of the whole deal, and people just keep disappearing. You're hearing crowd noise because we're in the stadium base. It really feels like what I feel like the Gladiators felt like without the lions and tigers. But at this point, you don't know if there are lions and tigers out there. And so, exactly. So you walk out on the floor, the traditional thing with CrossFit. Here's the deal: is I sweat a lot, so I take my shirt off so I don't waste a shirt. Well, I'm taking my shirt off. Everybody's doing it as we're walking on the floor. The guy who started the CrossFit Games, Dave Castro, ex-Navy SEAL, not known for his bedside manner, looks at us and says, "Put your effing shirt back on. It's pretty hot out there." Okay, what are we doing? What are they? Something on fire? So we walk out on the floor. They lead us 6 out, and he goes, "All right, workout is." I think it was 30 push-ups, climb this 12-foot wall with, there's a rope open over, 21 overhead squats, 3 rounds, 3, 2, 1, go. And everybody's like, what? Somebody drops down and starts doing push-ups. So that's the first workout. He had 7 minutes to finish, and like a lamb led to slaughter, I go as hard as I can. Only person that finished that first workout. Didn't know on the other side of that wall, there's another workout. And then after that workout, there's another workout. And so there's 3 workouts and 3 separate scores. And so I win that first one. I'm basically drunk at this point. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, the next workout's here. And so you go to do that one. No idea what even that workout still is to this day. It was with toes to bar and ground to overhead. The next workout, you do burpees where you go down and touch your chest, go up over the wall, and then you climb a rope. Growing up, climbed a rope 1,000 times, but always no hands, right? Or no feet,
legs.
sorry, no feet, no legs. Because my dad says that was for sissies. And so you'd done all these workouts, and then I'm watching these guys go up and down these ropes, and they're using their feet. And I'm so just messed up. I think they tested the floor. It's like 120 or 130 degrees or something like that on the floor. It's probably ambient 100. And so you're just like, what's going on? I'm trying to climb this rope. Can't get up it. There's people taking their shoelaces off of their shoes, trying to show me how to wrap my feet from the crowd. Because it's pretty like grassroots-ish at this point.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, whatever. And so I muster enough courage, get up without my feet, touch the cross beam at 20 feet, and then boom, straight down, fall. And so I end up getting up 2 more times, finish. They pull us off the floor. We know nothing. Pull us off the floor. We have to go drug test for an hour. You don't have to pee.
They drug test you after you've done all this.
As soon as you finish. They'll at this point, they only did it after. Now they do it intermittent. I've been blood tested.
Really?
I've been blood tested. I've been pee
you could
tested.
slip into the bathroom and take something illegal.
Who knows? And so we go into drug test, and probably 45 minutes later, they do the award ceremony. Still told nothing. Like, I don't know what's happened, right? So we come out, and I see on the big check, my name's not on the big check. So that's how I find out that I'd gotten second place. Tell you all that, everybody's like, oh, that's awesome. You got second place the first time. You're not supposed to win. For me, it was like the rug pulled out, right? Because I'd built up, and I'd failed. And so, not in any way was it like I wasn't like super depressed, but I was like, man, what am I doing in my life? Like, we kind of owned this gym, but what am I trying to do? And so the head strength and conditioning coach at Tennessee Tech offered me a graduate assistant spot, and I was like, sure, yeah, I mean, maybe that's what I want to do, right? Like I just finished the fire department. Plan was to get a master's and then come back to the fire department and do that. But I'm like, what? Like there was a hole, right? And so my whole life, I always joke that my grandma Violet has a direct line to God. Like the woman is incredible. Both my grandmas, my grandpas, my whole family is just faith driven. But it was more, for me, it was like something I had to do, and out of like necessity of, like, hey God, how can you help me? Like never like, what can I do for you? And so I had a really cool Chip, who was the head strength and conditioning coach, invited me to a Bible study. And so we started reading Romans, and then I had another buddy that he asked me a question. He's like, if you were to die today, would you go to heaven? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. I believe in God, and I believe Jesus died for it, but I was just not living that life. And then went back, started reading Matthew in the Gospels, and then went Matthew, Mark, Luke, kept reading Romans. And I'm like, man, Jesus got baptized when he was 30. I'm 24, I think, at the time. I was baptized in the Catholic Church, but we kind of like, when we moved to Tennessee, Catholic Church isn't big in the South, and so we Baptist, Presbyterian, but it was never an identity for me, right? It was like, if I went to my Bible, it was like, all right, what can you give me, God, that I need today? Or, there's something there, but it was never that relationship. And I'm like, oh man, there's so much more to this. And I say all that to like, my whole life was whatever I was doing, I was trying to succeed in that because I thought, like I could make people proud of me. And that was my identity. And that's who Rich was. Like, he's a competitor. He's all these things. But like, what I've found was that my life, in Christ, and so my identity is in Christ. So whatever he's done, like all the gifts that I've been given, I feel like my way to give back is to glorify God. And so I got the tattoo Galatians 6:14, and that's, may I never boast in anything except for the cross of the Lord Jesus Christ, which has been crucified to me and out of the world. And so for me, I could compete from there, so I always joke that like, the next year at the CrossFit Games, I'd won, I think I got second in the Open, which is this big, they switched the whole season. But then you went to regionals, won my regional, I was good to go to the CrossFit Games, and I'm going to the bus to the first event, and it was like a swim, a run in the sand, and something else. And I'm like, read Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and keep you and give you hope in the future. And I'm like, all right, we're good, right? and then I get 27th on that event. And I'm like, all right, God, maybe you're trying to show me I'm a humble loser. But it was like, it was a cool that I could actually disconnect from it, and I was okay, right? And I knew that whoever I was in CrossFit or whoever I was in life, it means something, but it doesn't mean as much as what Christ did and what he's done. And I could compete from this place that, hey, I'm going to be okay. Like, I'm still a competitor and I hate losing. Like, talk to anybody. Like, I'm not a pleasant person to be around when I lose. But I could still, in that moment, compete from a good spot. And then when it was all over, couple weeks later and it wears off, I'm okay, right? You know, I don't think I hate the whole like, well, Christians are soft, you know, they're not competitors, or, you know, like the Bible tells you to, you know, like love your neighbor. I can still love my neighbor, but I want to beat you, you know, like, and so, you know, and then
Rich Froning.
Yeah, there you go.
I love my neighbor, but I
still want to beat you.
I'll beat you in a push-up contest any day. Sucker.
Whatever you want to do. And so that long-winded answer to say my identity's in Christ. And then now it's like with my kids, that's what I want them to know, that, you know, what you're going to do is cool, but those things in the world are going to fail you, right? Like those things can be taken away in an instant, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of I mean, really the crux of the Christian faith is belief in Christ, but it's belief in something bigger,
greater
than us. Like we're a part of something so much bigger, and that decentralizes. It's designed to decentralize us,
right?
You know, where the world and everything, even biologically on this planet, in a way, kind of tries to isolate you. Yeah, me. Mm-hmm. You know, and so,
and I'm not saying I don't fight that. Like, you still it's a daily battle. You know, like it's you know, we have faith, family, fitness service at Mayhem, and so for me, that's like our core values. And so for me, faith, family, fitness are like every day. You know, like service is a huge part of who we are, but every day it's faith, family, fitness. And like I try to have a short memory when I do good, and I try to have a short memory when I do bad. But I try to be as objective as possible every day, and kind of like, how did you do? Right. And just try to piece those together, right? Yeah. Consistently.
That's powerful, man. That's great. You know, there's when it comes to, I mean, it is when it comes to faith, it's as real as you as a person makes it, you know? I mean, like in terms of and I know for me, man, I mean, my biblically based faith is like, it's like powerful stuff to me. Like for sure. Absolutely the pinnacle of everything that I do. Not some like religious external. And if you're not, like if you've never, I don't know, if that doesn't vibe with you, it can, when you hear people talk about religion, it can be like, you know, it's just not for me. It's not, man. No, I mean, it's very, very real, and that's what I sense inside of you, is that this is like a real thing. Like this is not just like an external check box of like, I want to.
It's like any other relationship, right? So, you know, you get more into a relationship the more you put into it, and it's the same thing with that relationship with Christ. I think, you know, like if I'm in the Word every day, you try to be in every day. You know, like there's days where you know, I get busy, right? Having 3 kids, young kids, but I try to, or listen to worship music or whatever. There's something is usually being told somehow, right, to you. And so those days I know are noticeably better than days where I'm not doing what I should be doing, right? So, yeah, and you know, you get people turned off. You know, like you know, you'll see comments like, "Oh, there you go, talking about the Bible again." I'm like, man, I've just seen what it's done for me, and I've seen what it's done for a lot of other people. And, you know, religion and faith technically aren't the same, different things, but they are to me. You know, like religion is laws and rules and what we've kind of like, what people have attached to the Bible, right? You know, and so, man, it's just, it's done amazing things for me and my family and my life. And so I just try to tell as many people as I can about how awesome it is.
Yeah, good. Bear, I asked you earlier if you had any questions for Rich. Anything?
Well, I'll swing back around to the first question I asked, which is, what'd you get your degree in?
That was all the way back at the beginning.
You got swept under
Bear's
the rug.
been sitting there this whole time, man, rolling his eyes at his dad.
It's like, thanks, Dad.
This is what it's like having a podcaster for a dad. When you ask a question, be like, no.
I got this. We'll come back, Bear. Exercise science. Yeah, my degree was in exercise science.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I'm actually like, I think I'm 6 or
No
was.
wonder he's the fittest man in the world. He has
Learned it
an
from a book.
exercise science degree.
Learned it from a book.
Okay, and then my second question, and probably most important question, is how many push-ups can you do?
Real push-ups or
like
push-ups
chest to
you
ground.
see on the internet? Honestly, I don't know.
Tell us the difference.
what would be a real push-up to
you see guys
Hand
in the
release?
NFL or whatever when they're like get down and do push-ups when they miss a tackle or something, but they're just like just
little-
bend your arms.
little-
With us, it's chest touches the ground and then full
Full
lockout at the
extension.
top. But you also push-up is a hard movement to judge. I don't think it's a good judgment movement because you've all seen the people where like a push-up to me is like straight line from your heels to the back of your head, but everybody's seen people that like their butt kind of stays the same.
Yeah.
And so it's just like there's such a weird. I like personally, and I'll probably get a ton of like hate from the CrossFitters. I think a strict pull-up competition is actually better.
A better test
than,
of strength.
Better test because grip strength is actually the one thing that they say
What is your
a direct
grip strength?
A direct. I don't know. Honestly,
7.
is a direct correlate
70.
to longevity in life.
I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do you think about the like? I always see people making
Kipping.
fun of CrossFitters.
Kipping,
for the,
kipping pull-ups, man. I think there's a place for it because you're going to see the note. You don't get on the CrossFit interwebs, but one of the main knocks about CrossFit is kipping pull-ups. Everybody
I've
that
seen them
hates
and
CrossFit,
they tear me up. I mean, I'm like to watch.
I
They tear
mean,
me up.
What do they do?
They're like, it's just crazy.
So basically, the idea is you're supposed to increase your work capacity across time. So like be able to do more reps faster. So if we are to say a pull-up is arms locked out at the bottom and your chin over the bar, as long as you do that, the movement standard is met. People have figured out how to initiate some hip from gymnasts, from so you initiate some hip drive into it, like
so
you
get,
would,
like some momentum.
yeah,
to,
some
like,
momentum.
pull yourself
But as
up.
long as you're doing there's a place for it. Kipping, there's a place for kipping in competition. I think for everyday people, for people in the gym, even for myself, I don't kip a ton. If I'm doing a competition event, I'll throw in some kipping, or if I'm getting ready for a competition, I'll throw in some kipping pull-ups, only to prepare for that competition because it is, and that's where you see a lot of injuries.
It looks violent.
It is and it isn't. Like it looks like, depending on if you do it the correct way, like there is a lot of like fall off at the bottom. But I mean, you look at Olympic lifting, so what some people would say, like a shoulder press. So you got a bar on your shoulder and you just press it up, right? So why is it okay for them, like in a jerk, to dip and press if that's allowed? Why is that not allowed in the pull-up? I see the, like, general population should not be doing that. But in a competition,
So how many pull-ups, Rich?
the most kipping pull-ups I've ever done, I think, was 84 in a row.
Holy smokes.
But
What about
that's using the
straight-
hips. It's,
What about
it's
straight up
kipping
pull-ups?
or strict pull-ups? 32 or 31,
Holy
I think, is the
smokes.
most I've ever done.
That's a lot of pull-ups.
Unbroken.
Hey, are you
Legit.
familiar with Truett Haynes, Cam
Oh
Haynes'
yeah,
son?
Yep.
What's the deal?
He's can do a lot of pull-ups, man.
I mean, he's
He's-
like he did. I think like at least 8,000
It's
push-ups
all
or pull-ups
yes.
in a like.
Yeah, he
maybe a
was the
24-hour
Guinness. He was like the
period or
Guinness
something.
Book of World Records
For-
holder. Him and Goggins went back and forth.
Well, then,
then I
as soon
think
as he
some,
got it,
like-
someone else broke
Yeah,
it.
Truett was, as I understood it, he was like the world. He held the record for
world
like a
pull-up.
day.
Yeah,
And
So-
they somebody heard about it and they were like, "Oh shoot, I can take
8,000. What's that?
it's crazy. That's a
think
lot.
Golly,
But that's something you got to train for. You know,
Yeah.
like your body. If you just walk
How
off
many
the street
weeks
trying
would
to
it take me to get up to 8,000 pull-ups in a 24-hour?
Probably a couple.
you may have missed your time, Josh.
My window has passed.
Nah.
Mm.
So,
Well,
the answer is I don't know on push-ups.
Ballpark it.
50-ish, maybe. I don't know.
you could do
40,
more than
50.
that,
We
man.
should do
push-up
Real
competition.
push-ups. Yeah, I've got a.
if you can do 50,
From
we're doing a
years-
competition.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then we're gonna judge them to the standard. You know, like.
To the Froning stand.
And so, I've got all kind of, that's one of the knocks on CrossFit is it's dangerous. Like getting off the couch is dangerous, right? So if you're doing it, in a local affiliate or a gym where, good coaching, it's pretty safe. Like if you got somebody watching you can drop your ego at the door. What's so good about it is the movements change so much that you're doing different things versus just running. Like running has one of the highest injury rates because it's so repetitive and it's the same thing over and over. But what I did for years was I put my body through the ringer, right? So anything you do in excess, anything you do at a high level takes a toll. So like my rotator cuff, I shoot left-handed, but I'm not left-handed because my rotator cuff is trash on my left side. So it's, push-ups.
Really?
Like I can still, for the most part, I just got to warm them up good and make sure that I'm, doing some stuff. But, what I did for years, and I wouldn't change a thing, like I did all that knowing and expecting that down the road, we'll see what happens. So I'm just hoping that knee replacements get better in the next, 10 or 15 years or last longer, because
you're going to need one.
Really, honestly, the only major thing that I have is this left knee. Just some days it's really good and other days it's not, just because it's basically just there's no cartilage left, and there's no rhyme or reason why one day it'll feel or look, normal, and then the next day it's swelled up like a,
So what will the life of 70-year-old Rich Froning look like?
Hopefully by then there's, titanium is good. I honestly, I think I'll still be all right. Because as long as I keep moving every day, I feel good. It's the days when I'm like, oh, I'm not, honestly, there's not a day where I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do anything. But the less that I do and less that I put my body, me and Clay were talking about this yesterday. Like one of the things that I not hate, but like when people are like, oh, I'd have to get in shape before I did CrossFit. And I'm like, no, that's not the point. The point is CrossFit is what should get you in shape. If you wanted to do the CrossFit games, yeah, you'd have to get in shape to do that. But like me and Clay were talking, like I hate the whole like, bodybuilders are stupid, weightlifters are stupid, powerlifters. It's like, do what you want to do as long as you're moving through some, I said, be able to move your body weight through space, get your heart rate up a little bit every day, carry things, pick things up, like whatever's going to enhance your life and make your life better and you enjoy, that's physical activity, do it. That's all I care about.
I also asked Rich, I said, is there any, let's not have a huge conversation about supplements, but but I said to him, what supplement would you take if you could just take one?
Magic supplement? There's not. It's just nutrition, man. You gotta take nutrition. I mean, I like caffeine, like the rest of us.
Nutrition.
Nutrition. You gotta eat.
I mean, he basically said
sleep and nutrition, activity,
I take
physical
it or leave
activity.
It. I thought he might be like, man, I'm doing this and doing this and doing this and doing this and this. And I mean,
I've gone through times where I took creatine and I've noticed some positives. We work with Mountain Ups. I like caffeine. I like the beta kind of itch makes me feel like, pre-workout just because. And it's scientifically proven that it does help buffer lactic acid. And you can get into those things, but man,
nothing substitutes good nutrition and just getting out there and grinding.
After it and doing something. Being outside, like.
What about testosterone?
I will take it when I get to that point. When my numbers are good, they've ebbed and flowed over the years, and that's testosterone is one of the things that's hard to like. So many things mess with it, environmental factors, sleep, stress, those types of things. So you almost need like a couple weeks between taking things or taking blood tests to do it. But yeah, when mine gets to the point where it's 300-400 on a regular basis, then you better believe.
I've seen your dad; it's never getting there.
Yeah, my dad. Well, Dad takes it now. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but yeah, I mean,
sorry, Dad.
Everything, like if a doctor's, I guess you can't really use doctors because they're not always accurate. But I mean, like, I think it's an individual. What you've got to figure out as an individual.
Well, I mean, you talk to, I've heard some people be like, every man over 35 ought to be on testosterone. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but it's not.
I was on it for a while, and then I got off.
Yeah.
Actually.
Did you?
It started making my cholesterol go up pretty bad, and I need to have some better nutrition. But
is this the time on the podcast when we're going to tell the world why you were on?
I had testicular cancer.
Oh,
and so
one of our buddies,
part of my testosterone making production system is gone.
It's gone, yeah,
and that's affected my testosterone over the years. And I can tell when it ebbs and flows.
Ebbs and flows.
You know what I mean? It does ebb and flow, but
I've done I did intermittent fasting for a while because mine was kind of tanking a little bit. And I did it for 3 or 4 years, intermittent fasting, and my testosterone jumped.
It went up?
It went up.
See, I was told that that makes it go down.
See, mine went up. It was like,
but isn't it supposed to make it go down?
I'd heard that it was the opposite, that it would go up because your body has more, like in that window. The idea is that, your digestion takes so much energy from the rest of your body, from your endocrine system, all that stuff, that if you isolate the time when your digestive system is working, your body functions higher. So I don't know. I guess that was kind of a big thing a couple years ago, and I loved it. But then I got to the point where when I was working out and training a bunch, that like I couldn't take in enough calories in that 8-hour window, and I was like, I went from walking around at 195, which I have for 15 years probably, down to 184 or something like that. So I quit doing intermittent fasting, and now
you know what they called him back then? Rich Scrawny.
He did it when we elk hunted. When he was intermittent fasting, it was at the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, so he wouldn't eat until noon.
I mean, we're in intermittent fasting out here right now,
Yeah, but he wouldn't. We'd be hiking around the mountains, and I'm, taking snacks in as we get up these hills and mountains, and he wouldn't eat until noon or whatever. But then the second time we're flying back, the second year, you ate breakfast, and it was the first time I'd ever seen him eat breakfast. Because when I moved down to Tennessee, he's kind of in the middle of the intermittent fasting, so it was the first time I ever saw him eat breakfast, and he never looked back.
Never looked back.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know. Cool. I don't know the answer to either. I'm,
cool.
But
I hardcore, and Bear can attest. Josh can too. For 3 years, I was very diligent to 6 days a week. Very stringent intermittent fasting, like not eating until like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Dang, 4.
And the web, one of the big influencers on Instagram, you'd know his name. He was on the MeatEater podcast. He's the guy that big into meat. He's a medical doctor. Anyway, I'm embarrassed I can't remember his name. But I'd been intermittent fasting hardcore for 3 years, and it helped keep me trim.
Yeah. You.
But man, I just noticed I don't know. I just felt like I was like.
How long was your window? Were you doing like a 4-hour window?
I would eat till like 10 o'clock or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I would do an 8. I'd do 16-8. So I'd start at noon. Yeah. Eat till 8.
Well, this guy told me. Forgot his name. Sorry, bro. That he's like, hey, extreme intermittent fasting can mess with your testosterone. And I think it did.
Yeah.
I actually unfortunately, wasn't able to get tested, but.
Yeah, mine went from like 4 or 5-ish to like 7, 8.
Wow. So it went up.
It went up.
Wow. That's a pretty good jump.
Could have been, I had a good sleep off season. Could have been, number of things, and honestly, when probably the one time when I got it early on, had the blood panel, I think both of my kids, like I have 3 kids, 10, 7, and 6, and the 7 and 6-year-old were probably like 3 and 4, so they were not sleeping, So it's like sleep has such a huge. Yeah. That's what I tell people when people are always like, "What's the number one recovery thing?" I'm like, sleep. If you can sleep 7 to 8 hours a night, you will you will recover way better. I notice when I multiple days of sub 7 hours starts to wear on me quick.
Yeah.
If I'm training and working out a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Bear, any more questions? Finale question? You don't have to have one. Josh? Scott?
How many pounds is your bow?
How many pounds? 82.
Oh, wow. Dang. You are pulling the heavy bow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's smoking.
Yeah, it's fast. It's elite ethos, and it shoots pretty good. I'd really like it. I have 3-pin, the slider, but my pins are 25, 40, and 50. But that 25 I can shoot at 20 and 30 within pretty. I mean, it's shooting quick.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think it was like stock was like 75, and I was shooting a Hoyt before that, and it was like an 82. And so I'm like, hey guys, I just need to feel that. So.
Good.
Comes with the territory, like expectations. Fittest on earth, you have to, like.
Yeah, I figured you're gonna be like, I'm pulling 50 pounds.
60,
I'm like, come on, Rich.
Come on, man.
With a bum rotator cuff.
Yeah. Honestly, it's the draw is fine on this left shoulder. It's the pushing out that was bugging my shoulder. Every fall when I would start shooting a bunch, this left shoulder would start to kill me. And then when I got done, I never got an MRI while I was competing because I didn't want to know. Like, you don't want to know. And so I went in, and 2 of the 4 rotators.
They call that out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
That's a great policy.
It really is. And so after I competed, I was like, let me just see if I need to do something. And the 2 of the 4 rotator cuff muscles were torn or had near full thickness tears, and one was like extreme tendinosis. And so you talk to a doctor, and they're like, yeah, we got to cut on that. And then you talk to a PT, and they're like, no, we can PT that. So I went the PT route, and it's, I'd say 95% better, but I just switched to left-handed. I'm left eye dominant. I had a buddy, his dad, when we were shooting rifles as a kid, I would shoulder it to my right shoulder, and I'd try to look down with my left eye, and he's like, no, just slaps tape over my eye and made me walk around like that for the rest of the day. And so I can close this right eye, but I'm way more or I can look with that right eye, but I'm way more comfortable with this left eye, so I feel way better. And
I'm the same.
I really wish I need to start practicing rifle left eye because I think I'd be better too. Actually.
I shoot a rifle left-handed.
Do you? I shoot a rifle right-handed and a bow left-handed. But I don't shoot a rifle a ton.
You shot bow left-handed was when you killed the first bull.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, guys, really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Fun.
Yeah.
We've got another basically day of hunting.
We can do it. We're gonna knock it. It's gonna happen.
All right. Well, keep the wild places wild because that's where the bears live.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, man.